Hey, Ufi, how's the team pulled up this week? You've obviously had a couple of games and lots of travel as well.
Yeah, well, yesterday was a day of travel, so it was a long day of travel leaving Tassie to come back to Sydney, and I think we got back into Wollongong late afternoon, and we'll have our one session before the game tomorrow. So we'll see how the players are pulled up this morning.
And are there any injury concerns from the last few days?
No injury concerns, which is good. Everyone's come off the Western United game without injury, but we'll see, how they've pulled up after the game and the flight back.
Yeah, obviously you would have wanted a win against Western United, but Melbourne Victory's done you a favour last night by beating Western Sydney Wanderers. Do you still feel like you're in that top six mix?
Yeah, we're still in the mix. We still, at the end of the day, we still need to win our games, Philip. It's most important in what we do, and if we win our games, we give ourselves the best chance to finish where we want to.
Yeah, and you play an Adelaide team that I guess has been kind of leading the way with opportunities for young players, but one of your young players has been going pretty well in the last few weeks, and that's Ben Wayne. What improvements have you kind of noticed in his game in season 2?
Yeah, look, the great thing is I think he understands his role a lot better, and he's scoring goals, which we want our strikers to do. So, Wayne is one of those young boys that works very hard at training. He always does some extra stuff after training. Also, with Greenie, a lot of finishing after training. So, for me, I'm very pleased the way he's going, and he's grown as well in stature. He's grown physically as well. And you can see that, he's holding up the ball and bringing players into the game as well. So he's added a lot of new attributes to his game.
And when you think of strikers, you often think of like guys who are pretty ruthless in front of goal and kind of seem to have similar characteristics. But Ben looks like the nicest kid out there. Doesn't really seem to be someone who would be as ruthless in front of goal. Does he is he quite unique in that respect?
Yeah, look, he's getting the opportunities that he's getting. He's scoring, which is great. You want to be ruthless in front of goal. Like I said, he's grown in stature, he's grown physically as well, and he's been able to hold off a lot of players and bring players into the game. And he looks like a lovely kid, but at the same time, he's playing a game of football where he's expected to do certain things.
Because is that something you have to coach him? When he is so nice off the field, to add a little bit of mongrel off it, or on it, or are you kind of happy with his personality on the field too?
Look, personality off the field, everyone's always a little bit different because you're not playing the game. You still can be a good person and a kind person. But once you're on the field, you're out there to do a job, and once you're over there, it comes from within, to be able to put yourself into those challenges and put yourself about.
Yeah, and I guess, last season there was a little bit of turnover with players going, and some of them were, some young guys like McCowett and Callan Elliott. How important is it for the club to keep hold of Ben? He's obviously off contract at the end of the season. But as someone who's kind of emerged as a pretty promising talent.
Yeah, Ben has always been promising. That's why he's been with the squad even before my tenure at this club. So, he made his debut the season before I came in. So, yeah, it's very important. We rely on our academy to produce players and give players opportunities. So, it's very important for us to keep Wayne, hopefully, for the next 2 seasons.
Yeah, and I don't know if you saw his comments last night. Perth CEO Tony Pinata kind of spoke about their reluctance to come to New Zealand for a game just due to the travel and the risks involved. Considering you guys have been overseas for over a year really to get the A-League continuing, what do you kind of make of those comments? And is it quite disappointing that an opposition club would deny that you guys the chance to come back?
I think it's very disappointing, to be honest. You look at we've been here for since November, to play in the competition, and at the same time, we've played with no home fans and an opportunity where the bubble has opened. We waited a long time for this to happen, and an opportunity arises for us to play a couple of games back in New Zealand. So, we look at the travel that we did this week. We went over to Perth, and then straight from Perth we went over to Tassie. So there was a bit of travel involved, and unfortunately for Perth, they're always going to be travelling because they're the furthest point away from everybody. And for us, it's important that we can come home and play a couple of games. So at the end of the day, I hope the right decision is made and we have that opportunity to play that game.
Yeah, because those 2 fixtures are still listed as venues to be confirmed. What can you guys do, in the process of trying to get those games in New Zealand? Are you still in discussions with those clubs?
I think Domy's still in discussions with the CEOs, and I think the club's having a discussion. And for me, very importantly, hopefully we can get that over the line to come and play those games over there.
Yeah, and I know you guys have obviously been away the last few days, but the travel bubble has opened up, and I understand there's been a few players that have had their partners come join them, in the last day or so. How much of a boost has that been for them? Because I'm sure for the players who did have their partners back over in New Zealand, it's been probably pretty tough for the last few months.
Yeah, look, it's been tough. It's not just the players as well. We've got staff here that their families are still back in New Zealand, so it hasn't been an easy journey for them. You know, everyone's doing their best, and everyone's worked to the best of their ability. So it's always a boost when family comes and you have the family support. So, like I said, that's why it's so important for us to be able to come back to New Zealand and play those 2 games.
Yeah, and just a final one from me. What have you made of Adelaide United this season? I mean, they've been, in pretty ominous form. I guess they loom as a pretty dangerous threat this week.
Yeah, look, they've been playing some good football. You know, they started off a little bit sketchy, and then they got a bit of form and had a good run. And that builds a lot of confidence. It builds a lot of momentum within the team. So for us, it's a must-win game at home in Wollongong. So for us to continue on our journey, it'll be a tough game. There's no easy game, especially with a short turnaround after the Wellington United game. But the players will always go out there and give it their best, and the focus is on us and what we do.
Cool. Thanks for that.
Thank you.
Hi, Ufi. Bit of a random one to start, but could you give us an update on where Luke De Vere is at in terms of his recovery?
Luke De Vere was tracking well. He's been on feet for the last couple of weeks, but I think he might have had a little bit of a setback. So I think he was going to go see the surgeon this week to see where he's at.
And just on Tiartify and I guess Reno as well.
Reno has been on feet, which has been good for us. So it might be, if things go well, he might be a week earlier than what we expect. And Tiartify should be training with the team today.
And, Perth's opposition is one thing, but there's also going to be a final decision for APL, for the league sort of bosses to make about you guys coming here. We've seen what's happened in Western Australia overnight. That's led to a game being cancelled, the travel shut down between Perth and New Zealand. Do you think, what would you sort of think about the decision APL has to make in terms of weighing up, taking on added risk with games back here?
Well, there's always going to be risk, and that's the risk that they need to go through and work through. But at the same time, I think there was a case earlier in New Zealand, if I'm right, in Auckland, but the bubble didn't close down. So that's what they need to go through and make sure every precaution is taken and everything is thought of. So we're hoping, and I'm hoping, that we have the opportunity to come back.
I did have those TBCs yesterday. Would you like to see this resolved one way or the other sooner rather than later, or are you sort of willing to let it sit there as long as possible if that helps it happen?
Well, it helps with preparation if we know now, Andrew.
Yeah. I guess the other thing is, the way they've put the schedule, it's got you potentially in New Zealand May 22, back in Sydney May 26, maybe back here May 30. That's obviously not ideal, but you'd accept that to have both those games in New Zealand?
Well, we're working. Well, it's in progress of if we can change that Western Sydney midweek game to an earlier date to make it work. So once we do come back to New Zealand, we can be there for the whole time, and we can get out to the community again, and and have an opportunity to possibly play in Wellington and maybe the second game in Auckland. So we're the club's still working with all the other clubs to see if we can change around those games.
A few weeks ago, you mentioned that you were hoping to have some player signings done, if not necessarily announced. Have you managed to get any done and have them under wraps?
You might have to wait till we get to New Zealand, mate.
All good. James, if you want to go with Finlay's questions.
Just a question here. So the Phoenix play Adelaide again in about 2 weeks, which is similar to your recent pair of fixtures against Wellington United. So does that have an effect on the team and how you prepare for the matches?
Well, how we prepare for this game is very important in the sense that we need to see how the players are pulled up after the last game against Wellington United. That'll give us an idea of who will start this game tomorrow. And then we take it game by game. At the moment, we can't look too far ahead. We'll focus on what we need to do tomorrow, and then most importantly, get the result that we want, and then we can focus on the game after that and take it game by game.
Sure. The other question, so the team couldn't take advantage of Wellington United going down to 10 men in the last game. What do you think the team has to do differently to kill off those games in those situations?
Yeah, well, we spoke about that at halftime and what we need to do against 10 men, but we didn't execute it, and that's why I was quite disappointed after the game about our decision making within the game. It's not that it's easier against 10 men, but when you play against 10 men, they're a lot more compact and they defend a lot more, and there's a lot more players behind the ball. So, we weren't good enough to break down Western United and get that second goal.
I'll just pop in with one more if that's cool. I know I asked you about it in the post-match presser, but have you had a chance to see some of the things Mark Rudan said about you?
Yeah, look, I think Andrew, you fall into that one because Mark has taught you a good lesson there in the sense of deflecting, mate. You know what I mean? Where when you don't talk about yourself and you talk about other people, that's called deflecting. Where he's hiding behind was a red card, not a red card. Did his team play a good game? That's called deflecting, mate. So you don't fall into that trap next time. That's a good lesson for you, bud.